Scott Young is an extraordinary man. He speaks multiple languages, learned the MIT computer science course from scratch in a year. Today, we'll explore his system for learning new subjects and skills quicker than anyone else and how you can use it to get ahead in your studies. 1. Pre-learning. If you wanted to hike across America, that would require planning. You would need to know what route you were going to take, whether you had enough food, and have contingency plans for if something went wrong. Mastering a new subject is just like a long hike. You need to know what route you're going to take long before you first set out. This is Young's first step, preparation or pre-learning. This is where we do some research and sketch out a roadmap of what we're going to learn, the order we're going to learn it in, and how we're going to learn it. If you wanted to learn a language, you would ask what the most vital things to learn are and what the most efficient way of learning them is. For languages, this is almost always how to speak the language and speaking to people in the language, respectively. For maths or engineering, it's almost always how to solve problems. You must know which topics provide prior knowledge for other topics. If you don't know high school algebra, then there's no point learning calculus just yet. And if you can't string a sentence together in Welsh, then composing big poetry is perhaps a little bit ambitious. But there is also a danger here. While pre-learning can make your study project more efficient, it can also lead to procrastination. Planning your study course and fantasizing about already being a world-renowned expert is a lot more fun than actually sitting down and getting started. So set yourself a hard deadline for when your pre-learning will end. When this deadline should be set depends on the size of the project. Young recommends no more than 10% of your entire project should be taken up by this research phase, so use that as a hard and fast line. This will ensure the research prepares you for your project without giving you an opportunity to procrastinate on actually starting. 2. The learning process. As I've discussed before, the way you learn can make all the difference between being a successful student in a seemingly impossible span of time and wasting years learning nothing at all. Young has three main principles behind his learning approach: focus, directedness, and drilling. These are the pillars upon which the entire learning project rests. I will never stop talking about focus because it will never stop being important. The difference between focused learning and unfocused learning is the difference between having perfect vision and having cataracts. Without focused learning, everything will take more time, be less effective, and less enjoyable. Focusing comes down to just three things: eliminating external distractions like your phone, TV, and naysayers. Eliminating internal distractions like stress, anxiety, and perfectionism, and training focus specifically as a skill through meditation, consistency, and continual reflection and improvement. These will all link together to make your focus laser sharp, which will be key to your ultra-learning project. This is even more important if you're fitting this project around a job or other studies. You must ensure that your limited time is utilized to its maximum capabilities. Next, we look at directedness and confront a disheartening fact about the human brain. We are just not very good at transferring learning from one situation to another. Very bright statistics students often have no better intuitive probability estimations than those who've never taken a statistics course. And it doesn't matter how much Shakespeare you've read, if you never perform your debut as Hamlet, it will be a total disaster. For anything we learn, there is a specific scenario or set of scenarios that we are training for. We might be looking to ace an exam, hold a conversation with a native speaker, write a truly spectacular research essay, or just look clever at dinner by knowing lots about Napoleon. Whatever situation our learning is directed towards, we need to gear a huge proportion of our study time towards practicing in that exact situation or as close an approximation as we can get. Sure, you could prepare for your history exam by just revising from flashcards, but why do that when writing an essay from memory is going to practice both your historical knowledge and your ability to use it in an exam context? So for whatever you're learning, make sure your study techniques never steer too far from the context you wish to use your newfound understanding in. If you don't do this, you'll end up wasting a lot of time and you won't get as close to your goals. Anyway, finally, we must talk about drilling. This is where we first identify weakness during our practice. Perhaps our vocabulary is letting us down during our conversations in our target language, or our grasp of the fundamentals of Python is so weak it's actively affecting our coding projects. Next, we isolate the weakness and put specific practice into bringing it up to the same level as the rest of our studies. Learning something new is, in fact, bringing a variety of different aspects of a subject together towards a particular goal. If there's one aspect you are particularly weak on, it can form a bottleneck where the goal cannot be achieved despite the strengths of the other aspects. This is where more isolated practice comes into play. You might spend a few hours drilling vocab memorization or revising the fundamentals of your coding language before returning to your direct practice. This process forms a kind of cycle where you begin with direct practice, identify a weakness, spend time correcting it with specific drilling, and then return to direct practice. Rinse and repeat until you've mastered your desired skill. If you use this combination of focus, directed work, and focus drilling, you will reach your desired skill level much more quickly. And if you do this for each subtopic of your chosen subject, it will ensure that your expertise only grows to the next level. I've had the privilege of speaking to a number of people who I consider geniuses. I've met a mathematician who used to be able to tell just by looking at most mathematical statements whether they would be provable or not, and a musician who could tell just from looking at a bar of sheet music which composer wrote the piece in question. These people were brilliant not just because of their learning, but because they did not even actively need to think about their area to make brilliant discoveries and bold proclamations. A lot of people demonize intuition as a collection of prejudices and biases, and it can sometimes be that. But it's also the sum total of our knowledge and observations about the world distilled into a feeling. It is the ability to cut through the noise and make a strong claim in the face of so much information that no one could consciously process it all. This is the level that awaits us if we use Scott Young's system. We'll hone our abilities to such an extent that we'll be able to think effortlessly and originally about our chosen subjects. We will be able to innovate, to develop, and potentially to expand the very boundaries of the field. But this promised land lies behind a lot of hard work. You'll have your best shot at getting there by using Scott Young's system. Subscribe to my channel for more on thinking to improve your life. But let me warn you, this may look simple, but if you engage this it will give you a massive result in your study and research.